Thanks, Chairman, and thanks to the witnesses for being here. There's been a certain amount of talk during this hearing about the environment in which the justices who wrote the Dobbs decision have had to operate since that decision, and I just wanted to flag in the general category of protest behavior the experience that I had with clinics in Rhode Island in the 90s when I was U.S. Attorney in Rhode Island. And I flag it in part because during Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's hearings, a witness was brought forward to propose the narrative that these engagements between protesters and people seeking services at clinics were done in a spirit of peaceful and loving engagement. And I lived a very different experience than that in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts. When I became U.S. Attorney, the environment outside of our Planned Parenthood clinic in Providence was so hostile that we were well aware of it in law enforcement. And Planned Parenthood had had to figure out ways to have people escort women coming for services into their premises through extremely hostile and abusive crowds. And it reached a very bloody culmination in December of 1994 when a clinic protester, we think that the protesters went back and forth between Massachusetts and Rhode Island pretty often. A clinic protester went into a clinic in Massachusetts and murdered the receptionist and shot up the place, wounding others, and then moved on to another clinic outside of Boston and murdered an employee and shot others, and then disappeared. Didn't know where they were going. I got the news right away, and I called up the U.S. Marshal, and I said, nobody knows where this guy is, right? And they said, nobody knows where this guy is. And because we knew of all of the threats and all of the abusive behavior that was happening outside of the Planned Parenthood clinic in Providence, I said, well, since we don't know where he is, we could be next. We'd better get over there right now. So he and I went, and it was a cold December day, and we just stood outside of the Planned Parenthood clinic, and the marshals and FBI agents ended up joining us, and then the Providence police took over security. And as it happened, the shooter drove right by on the highway just a couple hundred yards away and went on southwards, where he was ultimately arrested, I think in Virginia, but he had gone right by. And I'll never know whether he pulled off and drove by and saw the activity and just decided to go on, or whether he was going by anyway. But that was the environment that we were working in with these clinic protesters. And I want to make sure that that is absolutely clear in the record. This business of this all being, peaceful and loving engagement is just not consistent with what I saw with my own eyes and with what the people in those two blood-spattered clinics in Boston had to experience. I want to ask a very narrow question of Dr. McNicholas, if I could, and that is whether there are occasions when, entirely apart from the wishes of the mom, there are circumstances in which a doctor in a pregnancy will make a decision or recommendation for a patient that an abortion is now medically necessary, either to save the life of the mother or for other reasons in which it is the independent medical conclusion of the doctor and doctors have to make hard decisions all the time, that the best decision in this case is that you have to go ahead with the procedure, either to save the mother's life or for the sake of other children or whatever. Is that a thing that happens in real life?
Thank you so much, Senator. And before I answer your question briefly, I just want to again state the names of the two women that were murdered that you referenced, and that's Shannon Lowney, she was 25, and Leanna Nichols was 38.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Every single day, we see pregnancy complications that put people's lives at risk. And it is imperative that physicians have every tool at their disposal to be able to make recommendations. And I say recommendations intentionally because we never tell people what they have to do. We give them information, we tell them what the risk is and the potential complications,
and what effect
including
is
death.
Dobbs compounded by these anti-abortion laws in state legislatures having on doctors' ability to make those decisions and provide those services to women when medically necessary.
In addition to the hat I wear as Chief Medical Officer for Planned Parenthood, I'm also an elected official for the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. And we are hearing every single day from our members that they are afraid. They're afraid to make decisions that they know are the best health care for people. They're afraid of how sick they have to wait for people to get before they can take care of them. It is, health conditions evolve, sometimes minute to minute, sometimes day to day, sometimes it takes weeks. But the truth is that if we are setting up a system by which we are forcing people to sustain preventable morbidity and mortality, we are totally leaving an entire population of people behind. We are telling women that not only are they not allowed the decision to control their own body, but now we're not going to allow you to control your own body and make decisions when it means that you could potentially be leaving the 3 children you have behind when you die from that delayed care. It is quite disgraceful. It happens every single day. And ACOG is hearing every single day from people on the ground, right? I tell my 12-year-old all the time, intent and impact are different. And whatever the intent is of overturning Roe, the impact is that it is utter chaos and people are being harmed.
Thank you for telling us about that impact.
Thanks, Senator White.